What's up, everybody? It's Asada, ready to rock and roll with our gathering of the Griots day to day. Thank you for being here. It's a lot of excitement in the air. I feel like this. Oh, I don't know why I be feeling so nervous, but because the anxiety of just giving you the power that I'm gonna give you and who you're gonna meet today, it's all so much. So let's get ready because you're here under the umbrella of my girl Naima Latif and the female solution is Tuesday. Let's get this gathering of the Griot show going. Y'all know how I do. I'm always talk about doing something that is not ready. Okay, guys, hold on. Here we go.
Blog Talk Radio. Women have the power to transform this world. We can end crime and violence if we all agree to do one thing: share. Let's share our wisdom, share our time, share our talents, share our finances, but most of all, let's share our love. This is the female solution. Join me, Naima Latif, every morning, 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. Central Standard Time, as we bring you stimulating discussions about the issues affecting our lives. If you're listening online at www.blogtalkradio.com/the-female-solution, press the blue button that says follow and get our daily topics every morning directly to your email and your smartphone. Hi, I'm Naima Latif, executive producer of the Female Solution radio show. We invite you to call in 515-605-9325 and participate in this daily think tank as we examine the challenges we face and develop solutions that restore peace and harmony. We are global transformers, changing the world from the way it is to the way it should be. We are one. Wherever we live on this earth, we are one human family. On behalf of our team of radio hosts, I'd like to extend a greeting to all the members of our family, whenever and wherever you may be listening around the world. To our family in China, Ni Hao. In India, Namaste. In Japan, Konnichiwa. In Korea, Annyeonghaseyo. In Russia, Здравствуйте. In Germany, Guten Tag. In Poland, Dzień dobry. In France, Bonjour. In Spain, Hola. In Italy, Ciao. In Egypt, Ahlan wa sahlan. In Ghana, Akwaba. In Nigeria, Peleo. In South Africa, Sawubona. In Senegal, Nangadet. In Kenya, Jambo. In Israel, Shalom. In Pakistan, Afghanistan, Palestine, and Saudi Arabia, Assalamu alaikum. Greetings, and may peace be upon you all. Join us live on the on-air radio network called 727-731-5192. We want to talk to you.
All right, y'all, what's up? We are here with Gathering of the Griots. Oh, I'm just so happy. This show, for those of you that might just be tuning in, Gathering of the Griots is an opportunity for us to meet our Black writers. I might have other folks too, maybe, depending on the topic. But Gathering of the Griots gives us an opportunity to hear the story behind the story. There are books written, but there's some build up to why that book exists. And that's very important for the impact we want to make on the people that we meet when we write these books. And so today I have on someone that, oh God, I admire her so much. Oh God. She comes from my past big time. And so a lot of our upbringing is very similar, but what's most important to me is how she executes what we know, and how she applies what she's learned to make our people better. We'll talk a little bit about our together we'll talk a little bit about our past, but I want to introduce her now. Unmute that mic, girl, because I'm about to bring you on. This is none other than my girl, Ayana Webb. Hey, baby, how are you?
Good morning.
Hey, welcome to the show.
Good morning, listeners.
See, she's so mannerable. So basically, man, this is a good conversation because we talk all the time. But sometimes the excellence, I be like, why isn't anyone else hearing this? So today is really about that, creating, letting people know who you are. And man, we've made decisions to go out in the world and do things. So I'm gonna rewind back to us as young girls. Ayana and I we went to high school together, and we both from Harlem. Well, from Harlem. So we went to this school called Notre Dame. It was an all girls Catholic high school, and you're just trained a certain way. I went to Catholic school for all grammar school too. What about you?
Yes, I went to Catholic school, grade 1 through 12.
No doubt. And I'm gonna tell y'all, it does make a difference. We're not like any kind of devout Catholics, but the standard for what you learn and how you use what you learn. I know how to graph a sentence. Look, Sister Mary Jane made sure we know how to graph a sentence, honey. And I'm not gonna say words that make people go, oh, what? But the fact that, okay, here's these two girls in Harlem, here's these two girls. I went to Catholic school, but we didn't know each other, but we did come together in high school. What would you say, Ayana, is some of what was created in that universe when we met, being in that school, all that stuff?
I think that, so one of the things that is important is not only just our development, but I definitely, looking back, I would say being around a group of peers who excel, to believe in excellence, not only, academically, but peers who had vision, peers who were creative, who were artistic and into arts. All of that influenced me, and it made me realize that your peer group and the people who you're around when you're young is really important. So that's what I would say.
Majorly, like it's not even a game; it's a real deal. You don't know how it's shaping you at the time,
right?
But when you become an adult, you be like, "Dad, I got some dope skills." Not it's not egotistical, but it is a thing because it takes conversations into a certain world. It makes you take what you've learned and apply it in a way that it's really going to make an impact. So we're going to just jump a little bit and you became a speech pathologist, a speech and language pathologist, right? Now, what is that? Tell me what that is, because I don't think a lot of people understand what that is and what it does.
Yeah, I would say simply that speech language pathologist is someone who is able to diagnose and treat disorders of communication. So, for example, a communication disorder can be, there are many, many disorders, but one can be, let's say a popular one is what people call stuttering. Okay, that has to do with speech and the problem with the flow of speech, right? Because when we speak, we have a natural flow. So if a person has a problem with that, it's in the area of speech. So they would see a speech and language pathologist. And there are different levels of, I would say, professionals who can help individuals who have problems with impairment. So let's talk about other issues of communication. And when we say communication, we not only mean the use of words, but anything that transmits a message to another person. Even if you are using sign and you don't even use words, that's actually a form of communication. Mm-hmm. So if you have an impairment with that, you too can be treated by a speech and language pathologist. Once again, who is a person that will diagnose, and diagnose meaning they will, with training and education, they have a certain protocol that they would look at to determine if you do have a problem with any of these speech or communication disorders. Uh, and so I can talk about a few of what those disorders would be, but I would also like to say that where I would say cousins with people who are called audiologists.
Okay.
Another communication problem could be hearing, and that is treated by a person who's called an audiologist, and
Mhm.
that's a different track of training, but that also has to do with impairment in communication.
Mm.
So I would simply say we diagnose and then we treat, meaning we would do our best to help that individual. We use training and what we call best practices of that training to treat that disorder and to help that individual improve their communication.
Mm. Now, I could only imagine who we'd be dealing with. Because I remember this girl when we were young, she was stutter all the time. And we young, so we was probably mean. Lord have mercy, I, I beg for forgiveness. But she stuttered, but we didn't understand what that was. So my point is, you have children that have these issues, but then you have adults that have these issues. What's the difference between the two in your experience? Like what happens, and do you address both age groups the same, or is there a specific thing you do for young people, a specific thing you do for older people, for adults? What do you do?
Right, absolutely. The other thing too that I forgot a big segment of what we treat, and that leads into the question that you just said. So we treat communication disorders, but we also treat swallowing disorders.
Mm,
So that's that's a huge part of our work. And pardon me, to parlay into your question, when you ask what level and what age group that we treat, my term is that, well, I would say this: we treat from newborns to centenarians, or like people who are even over 100. My oldest patient was 106.
wow.
So we treat all ages. There are some speech and language pathologists who work in environments where, in any given day, they can treat all age ranges. And there are some who typically work with pediatric or young children, and then there are others who tend to work with the adult age population or school age population. So we treat a variety of ages. And certainly the difference would be, one is that obviously because of growth and development, the speech language pathologist would treat according to the age and the expected development, and also according to what that impairment is, or what the problem is.
Okay, what do you mean by expected development?
So we are all, human beings, yeah, human beings are, we are, we have a certain track of development, right? So, quote unquote, research has found that there are standards in the way in which, or expectations in the way that we develop in terms of our communication. And this has been well established during research. So that means that, from the time that you're born, and actually even in the womb, but let's start with from the time you're born till about, let's say, 6, there's an expectation on the type of communication you should display. There's also expectation on how you should be chewing and swallowing. And that's just based on researchers who are able to just look at the accumulation of a lot of individuals and look at their activities and say, okay, by age 1, they're able to, say 20 words. By age 2, they're able
Okay,
to say 150 words. By
gotcha.
age 3, they're speaking in sentences. So on and on and on. And so that's what I mean by, the expectation. Let's also talk about the human anatomy, right? Human anatomy develops as we grow.
Mhm.
And so there are things that are happening even like in the womb, and when you have a preborn baby coming together, there are expectations. That's why when people go get ultrasounds, you're able to say, okay, this is what's happening at this month and this month. Well, that continues even after we grow.
Mhm.
Um, and so that's what I mean by expected development, that we're all on a course.
You
I
know,
would say lastly, if let's talk about the adult
okay.
level, and another impairment could be in voice and how your voice sounds. That is an area that we would treat. So, for example, between males and females, there are expectations and standards, not expectations, but there are developed um, information about how pitch would sound and how voice sounds. So, that would be another area where if you're treating a person who has a voice disorder, there are things that are clear for both individuals, male or female, but there are also differences in pitch and there are differences in resonance and all of those things. So that's that's what I mean by when you ask the question about the differences
Mhm.
um, between pediatrics and adults. That's another level.
Which, all of this sounds like what? Because, in our community, I think the farthest we go with language, we be talking about you speak Ebonics or not. Like we don't really deal with the intricacy of taking care of this area, taking care of the voice. And I am sure, and that leads to my next question. Um, I am sure there's just a litany of problems in our community when it comes to speech. And my next question was really going to be about racially. What do you find? Because I've seen a variety of of your patients. And are you finding any similarities in any particular race? Is it different? Is it not different? They'll say we all got blood, but do you find a difference in what the disabilities might be or the impairments might be? Because some of this, to me, is it the way we're brought up? Is it stressed? Is it what? And so what do you find racially, if anything, with your clients? Like, is there more of this in the Black community or whatever?
I would say I wouldn't say that I particularly find a difference racially. Um, but there's information that looks at, for example, when you look at strokes or that or strokes would be that's a brain injury, right? That can happen when a person usually has some kind of loss of oxygen to the brain. You can have a stroke, right? And so there is information that shows that African Americans have a high level of strokes when you um, look at the general population or other racial groups, that African Americans and um, I believe the Hispanic population also have higher levels of stroke. So
Okay.
therefore, they can have higher levels of a communication impairment, which leads to something called aphasia, which is the difficulty in speech. So because they have a higher level in strokes, you can see that that's um, that's an increase. So what has that meant for me as an individual? Not much, in that when you have an individual in front of you, you're going to follow the same course of treatment based on and customized to that individual, their
Okay.
background, and what their needs are. But I would say where you can see a difference, I think depends more on the geographical
Mm,
demographic. So what do I mean by that? If you're working in a certain school community, I've worked in schools. So if you're working in a certain community, pardon me, that um, may have, I think I see a cross difference between race and also a cross difference in terms of class and economic differences. So based on what communities you're working in, let's say um, the person's or their parents understanding or education about communication problems, that has more of a difference. I don't know if you understand that, or does that sound
no, it
different
makes
to
sense.
you?
Yeah, it all makes sense. And I
Okay.
put a definition of aphasia at the bottom. Don't get it twisted. Now,
I should have put on my fan.
no, it's all right, girl. This media. This good. This good. So, but yeah, she mentioned the word aphasia, which was going to lead into my next question about. I've worked with you a little bit, and when you presented here in Chicago at conferences, and this word aphasia comes up. I did not hear that word before you, right? So, you guys, aphasia, as you can see at the bottom there, and I got this from one of your websites. It's caused by injury to the brain, because we talked about strokes, right? But they can come. Yeah, it could come from having a stroke, surgery, infection, neurological diseases, all of that. And then also, to just give you clarity on what it is, it's an impairment of a previously held ability. So a person used to have an ability, but then they end up having this impairment. And so talk a little bit about your work with aphasia specifically. Like, what is that? What is that about?
Okay, so yeah, thank you for providing the information about aphasia. It is a little known, how could I say it? A little known disorder. So there's even been research that's shown that a lot of people have not even heard the word, but where people experience it is a lot of people know about the word strokes, and they'll say, "Oh, my uncle had a stroke, and he he stopped speaking, or when he spoke, his speech was slurred and no one can understand him." So many people understand what aphasia is based on their experience with people. Like as usual, they probably just don't know the actual word.
Mm,
Um, so, I mean, as for me, aphasia was one of the disorders that I had to learn and get training on and apply, when I had clinical training in school. I had patients who had aphasia, and that was the extent of what I thought I would deal with, in addition to seeing people in the hospitals or what have you. But then I didn't realize that I would have a personal interest in it, and that I would end up being really intrigued by how I can help people speak better,
mm,
and just start communicating better. And it was a surprise to me that that's something I became really, really interested in.
hmm.
Yeah.
Well, what I love, and we're going to talk about it in depth in a minute. One thing I love is that, um, I'm a Scientologist. We rock with Scientology. And one of the things that L. Ron Hubbard said is, if you see a problem, look at what you didn't do and know why it's a problem, right? Boom, boom, boom. So what I love is that here you have this topic, here you have aphasia, here you have, let me just rewind a little bit, because I need to understand how this little girl from Harlem like me, where does it even come from? Like, how did you even get into this industry? Um, yeah, where it come from?
Actually, it wasn't on my radar. I was interested in possibly teaching, and I was always interested in research. I went to liberal arts college, and my first interest was in being a professor and going into teaching on a college level. And I did a few
Mhm,
programs that would have helped me to do that. And then I started to just become really interested in people and the problems of people.
mhm,
And as a person who um, I grew up in Harlem, and I was fortunate and really special that I had a mother who, at the time, I didn't understand what it would mean, but much of her life, or the time that I experienced her, because I also had other siblings, but she was she worked very hard as many other people did, but she was also involved in the betterment of people's lives. And so I just saw that as an example. And recently I was talking about my why behind WordStem, meaning my why behind the work that I do for aphasia. And I realized that it came directly from my mother and what she nurtured in me, which is to help people, but you have to go beyond just what you see in a circumstance, and you have to believe in what's possible.
mhm,
And what's possible is not always what's in front of you. So I started to see a lot of individuals who had difficulty with speech and language, and I would use what I was taught to use, and lots of tools that did help in many ways. But I also would meet individuals who many years later, they were not speaking, and I had this feeling that I wanted to help them, and I wanted them to overcome that barrier. And so I became really interested in aphasia, and that's what I began to work on.
So now check this out, because we see this book. I'm gonna try to make it bigger. You just talked about tools, right? And did the book come, because I'm gonna get to WordSim in a minute because you mentioned it, but did you created this book before that, right?
Yes, buzzwords.
Yes, talk about buzzwords a little bit.
Yeah. So buzzwords is, and the creation of that is in line with what I was just telling you. And buzzwords comes directly from my experience working with young children and my early on experience in speech and language pathology and in helping individuals was in working with very young children, even newborn babies.
Mm,
And I got to see for myself what language development looked like and what speech development looked like. And there were a couple of gaps and a couple of opportunities that I wanted to use to help on a very basic levels to help parents and to help little kids who may be experiencing issues of speech. And this is a book about empowering individuals, but also building compassion around the area of children having trouble, because some children are bullied because they have difficulty speaking. Some very young children are unable to even play with other kids because they cannot speak, and because they cannot communicate, other children can see that.
mm,
These other children, they're young, they don't know speech pathology, they don't know what the names of impairments are, but they can actually perceive as young children that another child is having trouble communicating,
mhm,
and that can create a barrier for that child who has trouble speaking. And
mm,
so what buzzwords is just a really simple fun story that also is a tool because it has exercises for speech, and it has a direction that parents can utilize just for some very basic levels. Parents and even daycare workers or childcare agency teachers and consultants, they can use this to work with children.
where can they get buzzwords? Should they just go to Amazon? Is there a website for buzzwords that
Yeah,
you
they
want
can
them to
find
go
it on
to?
Amazon actually.
Okay, so just put in buzzwords and your name, Ayana Webb,
Yes,
in Amazon, and that's where you find it.
yes.
All right. So y'all heard that. I love that you developed this tool, because people need that. But you can't be everywhere, and so writing a book. This is one of the reasons why we even do this show. When you write a book, it can travel. It can take what you've taught to other places, and people can duplicate what you created. And so I remember when this came out, and I was so happy she even came to one of my book fairs. Yeah,
Mhm.
to sell it here in Chicago. But I just love that. You would you say that primarily parents utilize this, or practitioners utilize this book? Who have you found, focus on using this book in what they do with children?
So in my experience, definitely parents
Okay.
have, because most of, I work from a point of where's the access
Mm,
and where is the drive, and typically parents or grandparents and very often childcare educators, they tend to have the drive to say, hey, I have this child over here who um, this child may not have speech and language services, and to be honest, it's very often that people do not have access to services for whatever reason.
mhm.
And so I think it's important to have tools that anyone can use. So in my experience, like when I've done fairs and when I've spoken to individuals, it's typically parents who have utilized it, but it's very user friendly for really anyone, you know.
Okay. So there's so many layers to this, and I see some people are commenting on YouTube. I want you, if you want to call in, please do. The number is at the bottom of the screen, 727-731-5192. If you have questions, like I said, you might have people in your family that have speech impairments, or that you never knew. Like, who would even think that swallowing is an issue or it's important, right? That, like, we just, I know in our community a lot of time we just go, oh, that's just how the person is, without checking it out, getting it handled. We think we can't, like you said, we think we don't have access. We don't know how to get access. But today, that's what this is about. There is a solution, and it's this lady right here. So we're going to talk about what she's contributed to this industry. That it just, you see her shirt. It say word stem. You're in the background. You see that that placard that says a word stem. So after this commercial break, we are going to take a look at her contribution to the speech pathology world in a way that they can't even can't touch this. Don't have me get MC Hammer up in here. You can't touch the way that she's taken it, the level that she's taken it. So after this commercial break, we're going to come right back and we're going to experience what she's invented. We talk about invention levels. So stay tuned. Let's take a look at these few messages.
You unravel me with a melody. You surround me with a song of deliverance from my enemies, till all my fears are gone. I'm no longer a slave to fear. Oh, I am a child of God. I'm no longer a slave to fear. I am a child of God. In my mother's womb, you have chosen me. Love has called my name.
All right, that's a book by one of our members of the Soulful Chicago Book Fair, Michelle Renee, powerful sister. She has a book called The Enemy Within, and it's about, sometimes you get abused physically, but that verbal abuse, many times people take that on and start to believe it. So there we go, my girl, Michelle. Thank you for being a member, and we also support what you do. So, my darling, let us talk about, I was going to say a gathering at the Griots. Let us talk about WordStem. Now, you guys, WordStem is a powerhouse of a tool, and it's so many notches. Like, you wrote the book, Buzzwords, but boy, did you take this up a notch, 10 notches when you developed this. Tell us a little bit about WordStem.
Sure. Okay. Oh, can you hear me right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Thanks. Okay, so WordStem began as, wasn't WordStem when it started, but essentially I had a patient who kept running out of insurance, and she would come to see me as an outpatient at a hospital. And she was a woman who had a stroke. Before she had a stroke, she was working in the, I would say, like law enforcement area, and she had a really wonderful life. She liked to read books. She, socialized a lot. She enjoyed her life, and a stroke changed everything for her, not only physically, but she lost her speech. So when I met her, she had come for speech therapy services in order to be able to speak again. So, for example, she would have an idea in her head and she couldn't get the word out. So basically, she was unable to, express her needs. And so I worked with her, but the speech therapy is funded by insurance because speech therapy is very expensive. So most individuals cannot come out of their pocket and pay for, a session of speech therapy or multiple sessions very easily. However, as we know with insurance, it's managed and you have limits. But when a person has a severe or really, really bad or difficult level of a problem like she did, she needs a lot of sessions. And what would happen is she had a certain amount that she can get every year. she would use as much as she could, but it would run out, and she made progress, but she was not able to make the progress that she needed before the insurance ran out. And what started with that is because I had worked with her, I decided that I wanted to create something that she can use at home. She had a supportive family, and I created something for them to utilize to work with her so that once her sessions ended, she was able to still work on her speech and language. That is the beginning of WordStem.
Mm-hmm.
And just really quickly, I they loved it. I developed it more. I utilized, my training, my experience, and I had many, many cases of aphasia that I had seen in one of New Jersey's premier trauma hospitals. I researched again and I developed it for the use with speech language pathologists in the clinic. And I also developed a brand for families. And I was fortunate to actually get a patent from the United States Patent Office, which I'm very proud of.
Yes.
And so right now it's something that many clinicians use, and I also use it for clinical education with other speech language pathologists. And so that's first them.
So I'm gonna give you all a visual, and then we do have a caller, but I want to give you all sort of a visual because you can know, and then you can, but you just to see it is a little different. So I'm just gonna play this quick video so you can get a feel for it.
We're playing WordStem because aphasia is not a game. No, 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 it's not a game. Communication is key. Oh, yes, aphasia is not a game. No, no, aphasia is not a game. So we're playing WordStem because aphasia is not a game. No, 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 it's not a game. Aphasia is not a game. No, no, no. So we're playing WordStem. We're playing WordStem.
Know about that, but y'all don't know about nobody creating a game. We're gonna come to that in a minute. Let's take the caller. Caller 334-727. You're on air. Say your name and where you're from. Caller 334-727. You're on air. All right. If they not coming, we gonna keep going. All right. So you all saw WordStem. You saw it. Hold on one second. Is the caller there? Yes, caller. We ain't gonna be waiting on this show for no call. You guys to come on in when I say. So talk a little bit about y'all see the pieces of WordStem, and this is what you all can do. You see the website wordstem.com. That's at the bottom, right? But if you want to call in and ask questions, like, whoa, you saw those people playing games. You saw a child. You saw her with patience, and it's actual pieces, a board. This is not some little kukulala thing. This is an actual thing. People can purchase WordStem, correct?
Yes, absolutely.
And
The most
go
of
ahead.
the interest has been from other speech therapists or speech language pathologists because that's where my marketing and my attention has been into education with other therapists.
Mhm.
We have done some, how could I say it? Not give outs, but I've had some friends and people who I've known who have been dealing with aphasia for whom I've given like the family and WordStem
Mhm.
um, kit to, and that was like for their personal use. But certainly by April we're going to start having more availability to families because I meet a lot of families. I work in nursing homes, for example, and I've seen a lot of families who, have an interest in once their loved ones goes home, they want to be able to continue the work that we're doing. But
Mhm.
it's definitely available for clinicians to utilize with their patients, adults. And we also have developed WordStem in English and in Spanish as well. So if we have Spanish speaking patients, they're able to have materials that they can utilize to improve their communication.
So the cards, what are the different parts of the word stem game? What are the pieces that people need? It's not just, oh, here's some flashcards. What are the pieces?
Okay, so there's a clinical version and then there's the family version. And what they both do is they utilize categories like words, something, well, colors, something that's very, very common to anyone, right? From the time that we're kids, that is something that is really defining, which is colors. So
Mhm.
what is created is a catalog of words and concepts, right,
Okay.
that the person will engage with. So let's say, for example, with the clinical word stem, the one that speech language pathologists use,
Hmm.
they're able to use what we call the aphasia specialty deck. And
Okay.
the aphasia specialty deck has the cards that you see here on the screen.
Hmm.
That contains the cards that have been developed by that I developed over a span of years. And when I say developed, I didn't develop words, right? Words are available to everyone.
Hmm.
But I did carefully choose words based on the outcome that we want for the patient. So what word or what concept did I want to trigger for the patient to utilize to bring out more speech? And so the colors will categorize um, the area of the language that we're looking at. So, are we looking at the um, senses? So, taste. Are we looking at um, words that have to deal with um, where things are, where they're located? So, it's really what I did is I created a way in which to intersect or to integrate specific concepts with pardon me, specific words with specific concepts. So
Okay.
um, I don't know if I was really clear on that, but basically the colors just denote they're just a way of organizing how the patient is going to talk about, or pardon me, how the person is going to talk about some level of language.
Got you. See, it's so the mind it takes to create something on that level. Who understands that? I kind of want you to articulate, because you're saying I made the cards to do da da da, but there had to be what was missing
Okay.
when you were dealing with patients. Something had to be missing for you to create the game, for you to say uh, they can understand a little better if this happened, if I created this. So what was missing to help you create WordStem?
Yeah, thank you for that. Something, it's so interesting because um, sometimes it feels like you have to be outside of yourself. And I think this is with anyone, right? Sometimes you have to kind of be outside of yourself to try to be objective and look at what moved you to do something.
Mhm.
I'm going to be quite honest. So, in terms of what was missing, I felt that there was something, and I wouldn't say missing because I do think that many people go into the field and they're interested in language and improving the language of kids and adults because they care and it's something that they really care about, right?
Mhm.
So that's not a specialty with me. But what was missing, in my opinion, was more. I wanted more drive. I wanted um, to see a person who, if they had a problem, I want to feel that we've done everything we could as speech language pathologists, you know, on the field, on the ground level, with that person as much as we could. And so I've used a lot of the standards, and I still do standard treatments that are out there with speech therapy. So, there are a number of different tools, whether it's like you're going to use flashcards for a bigger purpose, because the material that you have is one thing, right? Those cards are one thing, but the the thing is, where are we going and where are we trying to clinically chaperone that patient?
Mm.
That is the other thing. And so when you talk about what's missing, a lot of it just has a lot to do with, I would say, one, some fundamentals. Um, and I don't want to deviate too much. So help me if I'm going too far.
No, you roll, you roll, you roll. This you, this you.
So I really love teaching, I found. So where I've gotten that is I supervise students who are students of speech pathology, and I also supervise a lot of new clinicians. And I was really, really blessed with one of my externships. I was in one of the premier traumatic hospitals in New Jersey, and I saw so many things. I saw a lot of people who had brain injuries, and at that time, I was just a student. I was learning, but so much of that came back to me in the development of this and my fundamentals. I'm really thankful for a wonderful graduate program at Montclair State University and professors and great clinicians. And one of my supervisors was Linda Tucker, who went on to become, she may have been one of New Jersey Speech and Hearing Associations. I think one of the few or first Black presidents. And she was an amazing mentor. And she really demanded excellence when she supervised me. And I think that what is very important in any field is you have to approach what you're doing, understanding what the fundamentals are. The thing that happens with aphasia is it can be really complex because language is everything that you really almost have in your mind and your body from the time you're young. What does that look like when it's been impaired? Well, it's not only what it is in a book, but it is what it is for that person. And when you would say what's missing, I think what I found to be missing is, have we done everything that we can do as clinicians to help that person re-access or reorganize their access to language?
Yeah.
And I wanted to create a tool that can do that for a person who has what we call severe or moderate or mild aphasia, meaning real severe, meaning a person who's barely speaking. And because I've worked with new clinicians and new graduates, I've been able to see what they're doing as soon as they get out of the university. They should be teaching me, and I like to learn something new, especially the new graduates. They're great. They're great with equipment and digital and computers, and I love to learn, and they do teach me. But I do think that we still have to focus on fundamentals, and I get to do that with a lot of the new graduates. And I think there's a need in a space for something like WordStem, so that anyone, even with a severe level of aphasia, has access to the treatment, and that they have access to respond to what the clinician is telling them before we say it's too late, they'll never speak again. I've seen people who have not spoken for years. I've seen them re-access and reorganize the damaged brain to access a word. And I think what's missing is that we have to just keep moving and go further in a clinical setting, not only research, because there's more and more research, but when that person is in front of you and across from you, that is a real human being that has a story. And I want us to try as much as we can. And so for me, I created WordStem because I wanted to make sure that that was happening.
So you talking about when you say, these people have a story behind all of this, as you mentioned with the lady who was a cop and, she was reading books and then all of a sudden this happened and then she could not speak. And I'm telling you right now, when you lose a sense, I had a stroke. Fortunately, it wasn't heavily detrimental. But when you lose a sense, I could see where you could go cuckoo birds because you cannot express yourself fully. or you have to limit what you're used to in terms of how you communicate. And so this is a layer of that people are just not aware of. Imagine you could speak and then you can't, and you cannot get out your word, and it's so heavy. What I love a lot of times when we speak are your success stories. You're not even telling me to tell me success stories, but they are success stories. And I want you to share an instance or two of where you've seen WordStem do its thing, undeniable. What have you seen? Where have you seen it work its best?
Okay, I would say, boy, one of the first times, and this is even before the patent came through, and I was like just trying it. Well, I would say one example is when I was working at a place where there were two other speech pathologists, and they would come to me when I just had my sample kit, and they would say, "Can I use WordStem?" And they would want to borrow it and use it with their patients, and that meant a lot to me. It meant that they felt that there was success with it. So I have that type of success. I have at least one example where there was a patient who was she was actually in what we would call subacute. That's a place where you would go after you leave the hospital so that you can work on rehabilitation, usually of physical movement or speech and language.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had spoken to this person's therapist, and the therapist was thinking that this patient was unable to verbalize. And so I basically encouraged the therapist to try WordStem with her. And then the next day, she sent me a text message, and the therapist had written in that text message, like, wow, this person said these particular things, and I actually didn't know that she had that in her. And so that's a great example, because it means that it's not me actually utilizing it, that it's a whole nother person using a system and using a technique. So I would say that was one. And I would say that one of the most amazing examples I have, it may be on the WordStem website, but it was with an individual who I was asked to see for speech therapy. When I approached this person, who was she was at this point in long-term nursing, she actually had not only lost the ability to speak, but she lost the ability to understand words. So if you give her directions, she was unable to follow them. So if you said, for example, touch your nose or blink your eyes, she didn't understand those words because her brain was so badly damaged by the stroke.
Okay.
In any case, I did have to work with her on that, and she did improve understanding. And then I moved her up to speech, because what's fundamental is, if you have poor understanding, it's understanding really comes first before expression.
Okay.
So once I helped her with that, I utilized WordStem to.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. People are calling me. Go ahead.
I utilized WordStem to help her verbalize. So what I found out after she began to speak is that about 14 years ago, she was actually entered into that nursing home. And I had thought she had only been there about 3 years. And I was shocked that she was able to retrieve speech at being chronic, meaning for so long. I didn't even know when I was working with her how long it had been. And that for me was a big motivator, and it changed everything for me, that, people can recover speech. And it was just so emotional for me and amazing. I'll never forget it. So
Don't start crying. I be having my tissue. Look, I be like this. Oh, God. But I mean, y'all should be telling me so many success stories that it's just very important, because it's an area you don't really think about. You don't really think about, that there's a cure. And a lot of things in the medical industry, that curing is not the thing. So we're not going to make any claims like, I'll cure you. But these success stories are what they are. And the fact that people can be better. If you know someone that has a speech impairment, you guys, or if you're struggling with one, give us a call if you're able, or type in the chat, whether you're on YouTube or Facebook. We'll actually see your comments, put them up, and we can help ask some questions while we have a specialist here. Definitely ask some questions, because this is something I thought it was so important to have you, because you've developed tools that we can use to repair that. Like that lady who used to read books, does she still do it? Does she not? You know, and does she feel confident? And so the rehabilitation of whatever it takes to reinstill that in someone is important. Let me put this down here. So here's the deal. We have WordStem, and I want to share another one of your videos to just let people see the effects of the work that you're doing. Hold on. I'm going to put that on so that they can get a glimpse. She got so much stuff, girl. Oh, y'all, I was like, oh, Lord, I want to show that. All right, so we do have a caller. Caller at, let me see what that call is. It's a 973 number, 973-932. You're on the air. Say your name and where you're from.
Hi, how are you?
I'm wonderful. What's your name? Oh, sorry, girl. What's your name?
My name is Chardonnay Carter.
Hi, welcome to the show. Glad to have you calling in.
Thank you. I was actually, I was a clinical fellow, and Ayana was my supervisor.
Mm-hmm.
And I got to work with her and actually see like WordStem in action as like a new SLP.
Mm-hmm.
And it was very phenomenal, very like amazing to watch my patients' progress using this program that Ayana developed.
Wow, describe that. What do you mean by progress? What did you see?
So the patient, one specific patient that I like vividly remember, she had a like severe aphasia. Family was very, concerned, but of course, as with all patients, want them to, be more communicative and try to restore some of that function that they once had. And this patient, she was verbal, but like very minimally. Ayana came in, she brought WordStem in for the session, and was just able to elicit so much language from this patient. And especially what I found interesting, it was really things that were interesting to the patient. Like it was very personal for the patient. Even the patient seemed pretty amazed at what she was able to do using this program.
Wow. What did the family say? Like, you got the family coming, bringing somebody in, and it's like, oh my God, we don't know what to do. But what did they have to say?
The family was, of course, just being able to hear their family member, use words that they hadn't used in such a long time. They were very impressed, very hopeful, right? Like, I think seeing those things gives the family, like, especially after so long, a renewed sense of hope for their family members, and just seeing that progress, I'm sure that they were proud of what was able to be done. I was super impressed with WordStem. I thought it was just an amazing program, and I can see, its efficacy across population.
What would you like to see for the future of WordStem?
I would love to see more SLPs using it. I think it's just such a phenomenal tool that if we, just implemented it in more settings and made it, as popular, or I don't think that's the right word, but as, as
we do popular.
Used, as some other tools that we had,
Right.
I could see how we could definitely, impact the patients and the clients that we serve.
Nice. Yeah, look, I told her, I said, girl, your thing is revolutionizing the industry. And she, she
It really
modest.
is.
Right. She modest. She got, girl, whatever. Revolutionizing, like it's a wrap, 2024 and more. So I do thank you for calling in, because it helps. People can hear the person who made it say something, but when you hear other people start to articulate what they've
Right.
seen with their own eyes, that makes all the difference in the world. So thank you for calling in. I appreciate you. Yeah, thank you. Go ahead. You heard that, Yana?
Thank you, Star. Thank you so much. And it's
No problem.
That's
No problem.
that's right.
All right, take
Amazing
care.
piece. Thank you. So yeah, guys, it's not many things that people do in life that you hear that you hear they changed, like it changed a person's life. It made their family like it's like she reverses an impairment to where now they're speaking again, and that's just very powerful. So when we come back, we're going to talk about this some more. We're going to take a commercial break, but where's this going? What's the vision for WordStem going forward? We'll come back and look at that specifically. Y'all know I'll be taking a long time. Hold on. Hold on, y'all. Y'all know I got it playing.
And Anase went back to the village with the golden box. He set the golden box and gathered the children as you are gathered now. He opened that box and stories just rushed out of the box.
This is why we are here, because of these people right here. Give it up for the young people today, baby. Give it up better than that, adults.
Hi, I'm Lauren Cress Love. I'm the sister of the late Dr. Francis Cress Welsing, author of the ISIS Papers and the Cress Theory on Color Confrontation. We're Chicago natives, and to honor her legacy, I'll have her books at the Soulful Chicago Book Fair, Saturday, July 16th, 2016. Be there.
Black Fairy is in this book. Young John Henry, everyone's familiar with the young John Henry, and Deadwood Dick, who's a black cowboy. So these are three plays that are in this book, which has been used by a lot of groups, universities that have produced plays for children.
Hey, Black Child by Usaini Perkins. Hey, Black Child, do you know who you are?
Hi, I'm Joyce Clark. I'm 92 years old, and I have written books for Black girls so that they know how important they are and they learn the mystery to their history. I'm going to be at the Soulful Chicago Book Fair, and I want to see you there.
Saturday, August 3rd, 2019.
Right.
All right, hold on, y'all.
co-workers. People.
I'm starting that over.
Hi, I'm Naima Latif, and if you're watching this, that means you're one of the 4.6 billion people from around the world who are using an electronic device to talk to people. In these times, people are using the internet to talk to everybody. Friends, neighbors, family members, co-workers. People are on their cell phones and computers all day long. Now, if you're in business, that is great news. That means you can sell your products and services all day long and never have to leave your home. All you need is a media connection, somebody to connect you to an audience. And that's why I'm talking to you today. We produce programs, and our audience members are people who shop. They buy clothes, food, beauty supplies, cleaning supplies, home repair, transportation services, childcare services. Whatever you're selling, they need to buy it. We're your media connection. Just follow this link, and tomorrow you can sit back and relax at home while your business is making you money.
All right, guys. Thank you for listening to those few messages. We're back with Ayana Webb, my homie from back in the day. I love what we've evolved into. I'm extremely, when I see Ayana's work, I probably promote her stronger than she even knows. I'd be like, you're a superstar. And it's not even, fake, but I'm being serious about the revolutionizing of the industry of speech pathology. Now, you have something called Tip Top Speech. Tell us a little bit about that.
Okay, so Tip Top Speech is my company. And then Tip Top, what we do is we focus on clinical training. So we consult with other speech language pathologists. Our goal is to contribute to the improvement of the aphasia outcomes and speech and language outcomes. We also train new clinicians, and that is in the area of treating patients with communication disorders as well as swallowing impairments. And we produce courses for other clinicians, and we also produce products and tools that can help the lay community, parents, educators, as well as other clinicians.
Now, when did you started that before WordStem, or is it what WordStem grew out of, or what was that whole concept? How did it help you build what you have today?
Yeah, I mean, Tip Top Speech really is an umbrella for much of our activities in the area of education, in the area of publishing and publications, creating publications that have to do with exploring the areas and issues of communication sciences and disorders or communication disorders. So it's pretty much an umbrella for all of our activities. So that, and then for business reasons, in order to communicate and to move as a business conglomerate, we have Tip Top Speech LLC. But it really is just something that just brings in together all of our activities.
Okay, Tip Top Speech, because see, I've walking this journey with you. I've seen the evolution of so much. I remember, can't they buy the cards for WordStem separate or something? Aren't there some cards that can be used? Yeah, it's just everything. I know everything, but yeah, talk about that.
So in terms of our publications, you may be thinking about our web. We have like our web word cards, and that is actually something that is for parents to help improve the verbal output in the speech and word vocabulary development for children. So those are the web flashcards
Okay.
you're talking about.
Yeah.
And that the other thing is WordStem. WordStem is available for other speech language pathologists. And then we have buzzwords. So we have our other upcoming publications, which will be a book regarding for other clinicians on how to work with individuals who have aphasia or other language and impairment. So that's another publication that we'll soon have. But
Okay.
as far as the cards, that one is like a pediatric product.
Okay.
That
Is it now for people to get all of these products? Should they either go to the WordStem website or the Tip Top Speech website, or either? Which one?
So WordStem, I would say Tip Top Speech because
Okay.
WordStem, I would say clinicians or other therapists should go to WordStem, and that one is really developed more so for them. And other individuals can go to our Tip Top Speech, tiptopspeech.com, and that website will contain really all of our products and particularly more of our speech products for children.
Okay, I want to show a video from Tip Top Speech because I thought it was very good. Let's see if Asada can do it. Hold on, y'all. Let me get this Tip Top Speech video because I think it's so important. And let me get to it and let me play it for you. Hold on.
Baby. 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 Baby.
Okay, so I mean, do y'all see what I'm saying? This is not a small thing. This is not a person who just said, I'm gonna go and have a job and help people with speech, but actually develop tools to do so. So let me ask a question because I looked at the little baby. Would you say that like your cards could be used by parents, whether there's an impairment or not? Because, you know, babies have to evolve into speaking and they're going to learn sentences and they're going to just learn from watching parents. But would you say as a parent, I wish I could use it with my daughter 20, but as a parent of a very young child, could they get those cards and develop language skills? You're on mute. Go ahead.
Thanks. Sorry about that. Yeah, that is so in the case that you saw in the video,
Mhm.
you saw there was a child and a mom.
Yeah.
Boy, sometimes I start thinking about, because the people that I meet, I use the word patients and they're individuals, they're people. And I know you
Right.
know this, but they all have this story behind them. So often what will turn into a speech problem could be simply that language was not encouraged or nurtured early on. And even though we should automatically develop language and we're hardwired to develop language, the problem is that if you have a child and they're in like a language deprived environment, language deprived means uh, they're they may be in an environment where their language is not being stimulated, and that could be that they're not able to explore their surroundings, their immediate surroundings, and then maybe have that coupled with an adult or an older person using words with them. And those are the things that will further develop language. So what happens is, unfortunately, and you see this a lot with Black children, that the vocabulary development of Black children is typically very, very underdeveloped
Mhm.
by even by the age of 3. And so this can carry on into schooling. And it is one of the reasons why Black children tend to be the biggest population in special education. And when you look at what is the area in special education, it is language learning disability.
Mhm.
And a lot of this starts very early on, and it's not necessarily that it's a speech problem. So that is why that encouraged the cards, and it's not about the cards, but it's about the development of the parent-child dyad and coupling, in order to improve and stimulate the language environment at home.
What dyadic coupling? You better define that, even though I know it's a simple book for the audience.
Yeah, so basically like the two-way communication relationship. So instead of a child by him or herself, you have a two-way connection or coupling. So you have parent and child, mother and child, father and child, caregiver and child together, um, creating language and working together, playing with each other, talking about things, whether it's in the car, in the grocery store, and just their natural environment, but just basically having more language being shared in the form of words, making comments about things that are happening, whether it's you're driving by, um, driving on the road, or whether you're in the supermarket or going to grandma's house. But so when I talk about dyad, I mean like just a kind of paired relationship.
Okay, cool. What would you say you've seen? We're not going to give no names, but what would you say you've seen that makes word stem so important? Like seen because some doctor maybe had a gross negligence, or sometimes people just don't know. Sometimes people are not connected to the patients. You have an innate desire to make the situation better, but everybody doesn't have that. Some people just go to work and they do what they saw. Are there examples that you've seen that made you say, "Dag, word stem is so needed in this environment"? Because see, that ends up affecting the patients, whether it's their self-esteem, whether it's the family feeling hopeless because they're getting such, for lack of a better word, bad treatment, or the lack in treatment. Are there examples of things that you've seen that's like, this has to end?
Let's see. I would just say that there are times when I've seen patients who, they have a communication disorders. Maybe they've had a stroke, for example, and they do have aphasia. And I've done a lot of coverage work, so I've worked in many different settings, and I've worked at many, many different facilities. So I've seen a lot. I've seen a lot of patients. Um, as a result, I've been able to, and it's not that I go in to do any particular type of audit. I'm just going to give services to a person. And so it always comes down to fundamentals, and it comes down to, what is best practices? What are you supposed to do? And regardless of what particular role you may have or job, there's always a what you should do and what is best practices, what is the right way of doing things. And then and simply, and that's outside of me, right? Like many people have done the work way before me, they've done the training way before me, and there have been things that have been developed, right? So if I go and see a patient and I notice, okay, or see this person has aphasia, I'm now going to interact with, I read notes, the notes, and I read the history of that patient so I can understand them, and then I interact with them. And I would say, based on this particular thing that I'm observing, there's a way to treat that, right? So I think what's important is that that is the road that um, we should walk on. So when the question that you asked, I would say the basic thing is I'm really into fundamentals. So if a person is being seen for this disorder, I want, regardless of who the speech therapist is, whether it's 3, whether it's 4, treating that patient, we should all be engaged in best practices. We should all um, be able to, even though everyone's different in terms of, every clinician is different in terms of their approach, there should be a basic understanding of what is the problem with that patient and how to proceed. And I think that um, we have to do more treatment that is utilizing that.
Mm.
I'm not sure if I was clear with that.
Yeah, definitely. You're being nice because I wanted you to really, I get to hear, some things that are, and I don't want you to, really tell on nobody, but there are things that I think that patients and their families need to be able to identify that to know that shouldn't be happening, right? I'm gonna just read this real quick because a sister said, Grand Rising Sisters, this is amazing information to improve our family and communities. Keep sharing and growing. Thank you, Viata. We love you for that. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you for commenting. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no doubt. So, but my thing is, there are just some things that are negligent that people, when you're in the hospital, sometimes this should not be happening.
Okay.
But you don't know what to say, do. You don't know what better to ask for. And so, yeah, if they're in the hospital, what is the negligence? What does that look like?
Okay. Whew. So this is a really big topic because many people, you're going to interact with the healthcare system.
Mhm.
So on top of all of this is that um, we have to do better, all of us. If you're involved in healthcare, particularly, we have to do better at the healthcare that we give. That's not, I'm not talking about the insurance. I'm not talking about the equipment, but um, about the work that each individual person does in healthcare, right? And that we have to give better healthcare, period. Like each particular person has to give better care. And we have to move towards that. Like, so I would say one facility at a time. I've been in many healthcare facilities, hospitals, long-term nursing, subacute. I've done home care. I've been in a lot of situations, and for me, I think that so in terms of families and what you should know is, I think that if a person goes into the healthcare facility, you're going to do best when you have people like your family members that are able to visit you, able to see the facility, and able to see with eyes and ears what type of care is being given. I think that I've been in situations where um, I would say the best outcome is when the teams in a hospital, meaning the people who are doing the different positions, really work together.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Also, you have to have a hospital where it's established that people work together, and that there's a good environment created for the people that work there. And yeah.
But what does that look like? Not to cut your calm,
Mhm.
because we know your quality, but if a person has a relative or whatever in the hospital that has a speech problem, like what are
Right.
some of the basic things that should be done that sometimes is not done? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like they come in there, they look at a person, they write it on a chart, blah, blah, blah. But when I listen to you, your thing is thorough. Like you are thoroughly, you can't believe they didn't do this, they didn't do this, da, 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 or whatever. I want the patient, this is like patients being able to stick up for themselves or families being able to stick up for themselves and say, did you do this? Did you do that? Because you're one person. But what does that look like so they know to ask? Wait a minute, did you do? What does that look like? What should they do, and not, so that they're empowered. The patient and their family is empowered.
Yeah. Okay, good. Thank you.
No problem.
So I, boy, what should we do? Okay, so definitely the the caregivers or families being educated about what's happening to the patient. So the first thing is this, and I would say this is not only with patients that I've seen, but stories that I've had from other friends. One is what's happening with quote unquote diagnosis. And that's the first thing is when a person goes into the hospital, right? The thing is to figure out what why that person is experiencing whatever it is. So you have the person either coming in with complaints or you have their family saying this is what we saw, the person fell or this started to happen. So those are just symptoms And the first thing that has to happen is you have to have a hospital staff that's devoted to really getting into the quote unquote diagnosis. So how do you do that? That is making sure that, tests are run, imaging could be the CAT scan. So let's say if you say the head, you have the CAT scan and you have the MRI. I did have a person whose mother went into the hospital, and she texted me and said, oh, that her mother was in a hospital and she thinks she had a stroke. They were going to release the patient, and I said, you have to make sure that the diagnosis is thorough. They originally said she did not have a stroke, but it wasn't until they did the MRI. That is something that happens very often. And I've been in situations where the family didn't know that what was happening, and it's been other staff who've said to either the doctor, you have to have an MRI. I've seen this quite frequently. And so that's an issue of diagnosis, right? So when you don't go far in diagnosis, and I know you know this personally, what happens is the person is passed on and the real problem is not understood. And that's not a good thing at all, because now you're not getting treatment for that problem. And I think that's one of the fundamental places where hospitalization and healthcare could be really problematic, depending on, where this stuff is taking place.
100%. Let me tell y'all, when I had my stroke, they did not do the testing. I was in the hospital with them talking about they didn't know, they thought it might. I said, I don't know if this is vertigo. Then they gonna give me a stack of papers describing vertigo and send me home, They didn't do no testing. And it wasn't until I kept vomiting every day, they couldn't explain it. My equilibrium was off. And it wasn't until they were like, let's give her a CAT scan or whatever, that they found, oh, she had a stroke. I went through unnecessary, who knows, it could have been prevented had I diagnosed that I had a stroke, but it was a long time. I went from a different hospital. My family was just so not understanding what was going on. So even that's what I'm talking about. Because see, when I talk to you, you describe your process and how you come to your conclusions based on, you're going to look at the history, look at the diagnosis, and that's how you know how to treat them. But that's what I'm saying. Some people not doing it. I don't know. They just going to work, then they go to the lunchroom or something. I don't know what they doing. But there's a process that the family and the patient needs to be able to say, ask the questions to get the proper treatment, or else it's a wrap. So what would you say, just so people kind of can hear again, you talked about it in the beginning, what are some of the things they need to look out for to know whether they need the help of a speech pathologist? Because again, we don't, if before you, I really didn't understand what speech pathology was about, speech and language pathology, but what do they need to look for to say, I think this is who we need to see?
Yeah, that's definitely a good question. So it depends on obviously the context. If you are talking about a child, like a small child, you should know what the developmental standards are for a child developing speech and language. And that's one of the first problems. And I'll always go back to, you had mentioned to me before if I saw differences racially between patients. And I said, no, I don't see it individually, but I know the aggregate or the overall difference is there. One of the biggest thing is the education of, not educational level, but the understanding and education about child development, or about what happens to people. That's the biggest determinant. When you have a family comes in to that is inquiring of a school or a hospital about what's happening, it's because they know, they're educated, and that they've looked up about certain disorders or problems. And I know that Google isn't necessarily a total classroom, but it is important to get basic information in order to know that you should even ask a question. So I would say, if you're talking about young children, and I think in general, it is so important for every community. It's important for the Black community to be really, really concerned about making sure that young people, from delivery, from being born into this world, to young children, that they have the best opportunities to grow and develop language and to use all of their full potential in terms of their brain and their language and the expression of it. So you have to just quickly Google and know what are the language expectations. If you know that right away, you should know as soon as you see a child. And I have some pages on tiptopspeech.com that there's even one page that refers to red flags. When you see that at 2 years old, if your child is not speaking or saying any words, you need to get a speech and language evaluation right away, immediately.
Mm.
It's very important not to wait. It's very important to be very quick to respond to things quickly. It's important to go get an evaluation, even if you're not sure, because it's better to just have someone whose area this is to give you some feedback.
Mm.
So when your question is what should we look for, I would say the first thing is to have a bit of an understanding about what are the expectations, because there are expectations, right?
Mm-hmm.
They exist whether you know them or not. Expectations and development and norms and standards, they're operating in the world.
Right.
So I think that's something that's important. If you're talking about an adult, we all age, and we have, if you age and you're blessed to still have your parents, you're going to be dealing with aging parents. Siblings, you're going to be dealing with aging siblings. And we are the ones that have to be there for our families and for our siblings. So this is another area where people are thrown into the world of what's happening with a person's communication. And as you get older, what's happening with your swallowing. So much of what I do is because I still clinically practice most days, because I like helping people since being a Girl Scout and since working in my community service and to graduate high school. I just am addicted to, I love the geriatric population, and I love going to see people, and I walk and I see strangers every day. And so one of the things that I have to do is make sure that person, when they swallow, that their food is going into the right direction. And so let's talk about what families should know then. If you have a person who's aging and they're dealing with, you have to always be concerned with nutrition and how their intake of that nutrition. If they have other problems, that may impact their swallowing muscles. And if you have food going into the lungs over and over, very often you can get really sick and, develop a pneumonia. So once again, we have to deal with looking up what's happening with the person and seeing what are some issues that can be affected. So as soon as you see a person is not eating as much, they're losing weight, or they're coughing or choking when they're eating, you need to say, we need to see a speech language pathologist and get a swallowing evaluation at a hospital or some type of outpatient facility.
We are going to take a quick break, but when we come back, we're going to look at the future of Tip Top Speech, Word Stem, and the whole, what's the word you use? Conglomerate of my girls, Ayana Webb, speech pathology.
Let's go.
What resources and solutions. So let's take a quick break, and we'll definitely be right back. Here I go. Oh, hold on, y'all.
Soulful Chicago book fairs are the most exciting Black book fairs on the planet. Born in July of 2016, Soulful Chicago book fairs have both increased the literary marketplace for Black writers and given lovers of Black literature places to find books about the Black experience the world over. The main summer book fair stretches 4 city blocks on 61st Street between Cottage Grove and King Drive. Each block is characterized by its own genre, donning the works of fiction authors, nonfiction authors, and children's authors.
How it's gonna be. There's so much to see.
The day begins with a procession of elders atop a float, demonstrating the book fair's honoring of community elders. The entertainment of the Soulful Chicago Book Fair has been second to none. Audiences travel to its Grammy-level stage, which has featured musical artists such as Eric Roberson, King, and many of Chicago's multicultural talents. The book fair's community stage sits equidistant from either end and showcases puppet shows, open mic sessions, and author talks for festival goers to enjoy.
That bought homes or provide an economic foundation.
Aspiring authors have enjoyed the Soulful Chicago Book Fair's lineup of helpful workshops on publishing, writing for children, and legalities of the publishing industry and more. From its exhibitors to its entertainment, its workshops to its overall power, Soulful Chicago Book Fairs will continue to breathe literary life and prosperity into the South Side of Chicago for decades to come.
It will be how it's gonna be. There's so much to see.
All right, guys, we have some great Soulful Chicago Book Fair events to attend. First and foremost, we have every Monday and Friday the Metaverse Mingle. Yes, we have taken the Soulful Chicago Book Fair experience into the metaverse. That simply means into a live virtual world. Mondays and Fridays, 7:30 to 8:30 p.m. Central Time. Come in, learn, take a tour, take a walk, and just download Verbella, which is www.verbella.com. Download that community, get your account, and then set up your avatar. And then our next big book fair will be called the Spring Fling. That's going to be on April 20th from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. And it will take place at the Betty Shabazz Academy, which we had our event there for the holiday. It was great, but it's going to be book selling, book signing, children's activities, book lovers everywhere, great food, and all of that. So definitely want to see you there. For more information, go to soulfulchicagobookfair.com and join the festivities. Authors register now. Just go to author submission on the Soulful Chicago Book Fair website. All right. So coming back to our world, I am so happy to have Ayana Webb with me. She is a speech pathologist and my best friend growing up. She's like, oh, let's cry now. Oh God. But no, it's great to see sort of the roads that we've chosen. And how would you compare, and make sure you take yourself on mute, how would you compare seeing Black women in this industry versus what, are there a lot of us, and is it important to have us there?
Oh yeah, certainly. Like, so overall, I should know like the stats gender wise for speech pathologists, but it's overwhelmingly women. I believe I should look it up. And I think that in terms of Black women, of the entire lot of speech pathologists. I believe our percentage is maybe 2%, and I may be overstating it at this point. I believe when I first became a speech pathologist over 20 years ago, we were probably just hitting 1%. So I have been involved in efforts to be a part of, activities that are increasing our exposure, the exposure of the entire field, actually, to people who are even in a high school level, because there's certainly ways that you have to prepare yourself in the college setting, or at least in grad school, in order to you know choose speech pathology, or just to even know about it. So I used to be a part of a committee that did that, and we would go to high schools.
I'm sorry, that's callers just calling out
uh,
their name. Go ahead. Go
so
ahead.
we would go to high schools. Even I believe we've even done some junior high levels, to just expose the field, because a lot of it is just even exposure of the field existing. It wasn't even on my radar when I was in undergraduate at all.
Right.
Uh, so it's certainly something that can, the exposure of the field. This show, for example, um, more there are more students going into the field. And Shar, who actually called in, you would never believe that I had treated a relative of hers, and she came to the session. And I believe she may have been in college, but at some point I got a Facebook message from a Black woman who was interested in the field. To move the story forward, that woman needed to have a supervisor, and it was me. And then I realized that she was that young person that I had seen who was interested in the field about
Wow.
years ago, and it was amazing. It was amazing that she was in front of me now in the field needing a supervisor, and I was happy to be her supervisor. And I've had other, sporadic interests. So sometimes just exposures, having, another person say, "Hey, I never heard of this," and that's something that's important when you see someone that looks like you and may have more commonality with you. Not
Yes.
everything, but in some things, it's like something inside can say, "Hey, you know what? I think I could do that. I have an interest in that." So
Yes.
that's
Having
something.
problems and be like, not to cut your communication, but having problems, specifically speech problems, I know we see them in our community. But when you have a doctor that looks like you, there's a trust factor that you almost expect. It's not unfortunately, it's not always the case, but we almost expect it and really feel good when we have it, because this is a touchy thing. Like, you put in somebody's life in somebody's hands. And I think, you even existing as an example for younger Black girls. Eek. Yeah. You want to be a doctor. Okay, got it. But what you want to do, like, what do you really want to handle and help people uh uh improve, in their lives? And I think it's so important. 2%, you know what I'm saying? 2%. That's what we doing. Like, and it's on us. I don't blame nobody else for that. We have to be aware of this industry, and we have to be aware that there is something we can do about it. It's something that we can do about all of these impairments we see in our community for whatever reasons, whether it's the stuttering, whether it's the, a lot of times in our backgrounds, you don't necessarily have people who are going to develop your vocabulary, and or even see that that's just the way he is. I told earlier, that mentality, that's just the way he is, and not addressing that speech issue. Or sometimes I'll see our children don't speak full sentences. They 5 years old and they're not speaking fully, versus other cultures where they are. There's a myriad of reasons for that, but to know that there's something that can be done about it, that there are products that exist that you created that they can use, to become better. And so if you all want to say anything before we leave, we're almost close to that time. The number is 727-731-5192. Feel free to call in before we leave if you have any questions. Can I call you Dr. Webb? That's what they call you, Dr. Webb? What do they call you?
No, I'm not. No, I don't. I'm not a not
I'm calling her that because I want to wear it. She be having on a white coat. That's all I care about. But yeah, if you have questions for Miss Webb about something you're experiencing with your child, with your mom, with your brother, and you just didn't know, this is an opportune time to take advantage of being able to speak to someone who can actually help you better identify what the problem might be and how to handle it. We already know. I'm going to put your website down here again, which is Tip Top Speech, because you said Tip Top Speech has the majority of what they would want in terms of the cards and the book and all of that.
Yes. And
Oh.
so I'm going to correct. I did check my numbers. So we are 5%. There are 5% of speech language pathologists are Black. About 88% are, no, actually about 95% are women, and about 4.9 or wait, yeah, about 4.9% or something are men. So it's, a big gender discrepancy.
Yeah.
And so those are the issues. So
Okay.
so the
Yeah,
numbers
we'll
have
take 5.
increased, the
Look,
numbers have increased. That's a good thing. It's going
that is
really
a good thing, because you said when you started it was like 1%.
Yeah.
But if it's 5%, so that's good. So those of you that are out there and you may not know the direction you want to go, or you have children that are going in a direction, because a lot of times when young people go to college, they really don't have an idea of what they want to do and just kind of end up choosing things because they think they want a job.
Right.
But here's something where we're hearing, I got into this, but it actually is solving problems, really solving the fact that people are having some challenges with speech. And speech, nobody, when you go to school, they don't take no time teaching speech. You're just going to get it as you get it, as you're wherever you live, and you're going to mirror what is around you. But what I love, I was thinking this as you were talking, we actually can take this and take your work and intentionally refine our speech ability. Like we could literally just take some intention, and just like you would go to a gym to lose weight, this is something you can do to apply to the teaching of a child, to the handling of an elder who's losing their speech, like to do something so that they improve their performance. And so what do you see or what would you like to happen for WordStem in your products and services 2024 and more? What do you see for the future? What would you like to see?
Yeah. Well, I did want to, quickly run down that for speech, for anyone who's interested, they should definitely you could look into, I think I looked it up in like a career book, but you'll finish high school, and if you wanted high school, obviously, and then college, and you can actually begin brand new a speech pathology program in a graduate program. You want to set yourself up, and even if you, like, I looked into a way after I was done with college, so you can find one where you can do the basic courses. You should start looking into them, calling around and look into where any of the speech pathology programs. Some people even leave the state to go, because some of them, it could be a pretty competitive, I would say, entry point to get into at any graduate school for any of us. So you should get a list of them. You should visit, call, and then you should apply and go to graduate school and finish either an MS or an MA program. And they're wonderful, very, very high rate of employment. You'll pretty much never, ever have lack of work.
Wow.
And big diverse field. You can treat children, you can treat adults, you can treat different levels of field of speech, voice. Some people work with people in theater. You can treat people who have problems with flow of speech. You can work with the geriatric population. You can work with newborn babies and help them learn how to feed. And it's amazing. I absolutely love it, and I feel really blessed. So just wanted to just let you know how you would move forward. In terms of the question that you asked is what I see in the future. And I think I want, what I do, when I see patients, I'm not always, we all have to get up in the morning and do what we have to do to get to where we have to get. And sometimes it can be tough, but sometimes if I feel a little bit sluggish, I
Mhm.
actually will pray and I just say, you know what? This is someone else and I can eat my food and chew and swallow and I can speak and I'm going to see a person that has problems with that. And
Mm,
I actually pray to God, like, I want help me do the best job right now walking into this room because it's
mm,
easy to just sometimes go about your day and do something you've done 100 times, but at the end of the day, that's the person. And it's okay to just say, hey, I feel like I have a lack of energy. I'm gonna pray and I'm gonna do the best for this person
mm,
because you may be such a big difference with that person. So what do I
mm.
want to see is I want to see a really thriving, healing healthcare field.
Nice.
Um, I like getting along with the nurses and not that I have ever not, but it's a lot. Just even the relationship between healthcare workers make a big difference for patients.
Mm.
And it's important that, you know, we do better with that field.
You know those dings. You got some callers. So we do have a caller. Caller at 773-410. You're live. Say your name and where you're from.
Good morning. This is Sandra L. Washington. I am calling from Chicago.
Ew.
And as I'm sitting here listening, of course, can you hear me?
Yeah, baby. We hear you good.
Okay. Because I am as an advocate, I'm working with the underserved, under-resourced, and the disabled communities. What Ayana stated, this morning rang a bell to me, so I called in. And this is what I would like to say. She is so right when she says that you need to have your information, which is one reason why I created the health planner and journal, because you need to write it down. Asada, the situation that you faced when you went to the hospital and, before they diagnosed you with your stroke, that was gaslighting. Start using your tools. Write it down. Get a journal. I'm doing a Black History event myself, so get a journal. There's 2 tools that you can use that are now in the cloud that allows you to take your information down. Use your social media for more than you just, feeling Facebook and LinkedIn. Start taking pictures when you go to places when you're not receiving that care that you should be receiving, so that others can take notice. And guess what? So will the hospitals and the doctors when you're not being treated correctly. So by all means, I want to thank you so much for bringing that up. And I do highly encourage everyone to start writing it down and start taking pictures and placing them on social media so that not only you can get the help that you need, but others can get the help that they need. So once again, thank you so much, Ayana, for bringing that point up. I am complete.
How do we know more about her resource?
What's your website, baby?
It's going to be www.medihelp, and MediHelp is MEDIHELPZ.com. You can also view all of the Black History Month events that I'm doing are on LinkedIn, and they're also on Facebook Live. And thanks to Asada, they are now all on YouTube. So, yeah, it's a number of ways that you can reach out if you'd like to have a conversation. Please do reach out to me. I'm available to talk at any time. Thank you so much.
Nice. That's Sandra L. Washington. Sandra L. Washington. She's also in our metaverse. So you can get her book in our metaverse. Come in, you'll see her office, you'll see her book on the wall. You can tap it, buy it. But her journal helps people start to record what they're experiencing with a person that's ill, so that you're not like in a quandary, like, I don't know what happened, and not face, or like what I faced when I didn't know what was going on and nobody really had my background. I know. Thank you so much, Sandra. I know we have another caller at 773-690. You are live. Tell us your name, where you're from. 773-690. Are you still there? Okay. I don't know if they still there, but I know what we're not going to do. We'll bring them when they come, but we're not going to sit and wait for that. So I do love the vision that you have for the industry. You are very modest, so I'm going to tell them what my vision is. My vision is that WordStem massively revolutionizes the speech pathology industry. And when I say that, you guys, I feel like when I'm involved in it, I feel like, oh, this is mine. Like I want to spread this word because it's such uncharted waters. And I think the medical industry, it could be drab in terms of data. It's a lot of words. It's a lot of, you got to know, great, smart people. But I know when I watch WordStem, it reinvites, maybe just invites in general, fun to the healing process. It adds fun to the healing process. So now, instead of people just sitting with a patient talking about, open your mouth, let me hear you, like some boringness. No, there's a game they get to play. There are colors they get to acknowledge. There are, sounds they get to make. And so I see WordStem revolutionizing the speech pathology industry. I feel like every institution that has speech pathologists should buy 15 for the next coming in class, buy 20. Like, it's something that institutions need to give to practitioners so that they can improve their game. That's my vision. That's what's going on for 2024 and more. Like, like a hospital wouldn't not have it. If they don't have it, it's kind of like, you don't have a WordStem? Like, yeah, I got it. Why you ain't got WordStem? It's sort of like you're antiquated if you don't have it. So boom, that's my future goal. Boo boo. That's what I see for it. And with shows like this, we could just make it well known. Just my own little story. I was at an event. It was a book event. My girl, Jarima Gorin, burst into books, and she had some speech pathologists there. And so I came to their table. No Black women. It's all right. We're going to leave it alone. But I get there, and when I see they into speech pathology and I start describing WordStem, the gaping of the mouths and the stretching of the eyes, them girls was bugging like, what is that? What website is that? And like it was almost like they were hungry for that. Like they wanted it so bad. And so that's what I see, is that they're not going to have to do that, because when they get there, they're told WordStem will help you. And so it is in institutions like that. And for you all that are families out there, yes, this can definitely be something that you use. I think 312-690. We have a caller that's coming in. Are you there? 312-690. Maybe they'll call back. But anyway, we only have about 4 minutes. So is there anything that you want to say? And if you're a caller or you tried to call, just type your message in the chat under whether it's YouTube or Facebook, and then I'll see it and then we can post it. But go ahead, Ayana, if you have something you want to share with people before we end, give it to them.
Yeah, I mean, okay. So I will apply for a national health grant. We would like to have WordStem involved in research with patients who have aphasia. I definitely, like I said, I want a compassionate healthcare environment where we are setting the terms and creating protocols that, therapists feel excited to use. We know that very often, if you have a stroke and you have aphasia, your language may not return exactly as it was. And this is not saying that we will, but we want you to be able to do the best that you can and fulfill your potential with your new form of language. And so that anybody with disability, any type of disability, that you are gathered into the community, that you're valued despite the fact that you may have a disability. And so that's a part of my vision. And that that's something that we can actually do from the ground up, from, like I say, the NICU to the MICU, NICU for newborn babies, to MICU to possibly older adults. And that would be my vision.
That's what I'm talking about, y'all. Look, I love bringing people that can catapult us into the future. I'm going to try to take this caller. Take your phone off mute. 312-690 if you are there. You got like a minute. 312-690. Going once, going twice. Well, that's okay. Well, what I want to do today is just thank you, Ayana, for being here, for taking the time to just share with us. I'm sure information we did not have. I'm telling you, before I knew you, I did not understand or even know that a speech pathology world existed. That this is a situation that's real. People have these speech impairments, and because I've never been exposed to that in my immediate, it hasn't become relevant. And thank the Creator, when I had my stroke, I didn't lose my ability to speak. You understand that that's a blessing, but it could have easily been that. I've had Bell's palsy, all kinds of stuff. So it's like, when you're dealing with that, I have somebody special that I could attend to, but you all do now too. If you to reach you, do you want them to go to tiptopspeech.com or do you want them to call a number? What would you prefer? You're on mute for some reason.
They can go to tiptopspeech.com.
Okay.
I am also on Facebook, Ayana Webb. There are many Ayana Webbs, but you'll see me. You'll see some things about me. You'll see my picture. WordStem is on Facebook. Definitely, please send me a message. I would love to hear from you if you have any questions about something going on in your life. I help a lot of people like that as well. So definitely reach out to me.
Sounds good. Want to thank you so much. Thank you all for watching, being here. You're tuned in to Gathering of the Griots. We're here every Tuesday from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. and that's Central. Okay. So, and we stream live on Facebook, my page, Asada Kirkland. We stream live on Soulful Chicago Book Fair's Facebook page and Soulful Chicago Book Fair's YouTube page. So thanks for being here, my love. And until next time,
Thanks
see
for
y'all
having me.
Thank you. Y'all get that website, tiptopspeech.com, to reach out to her. All right. Peace. Enjoy. Bye, y'all.
We've come to the end of our show today. If you missed any broadcasts, go to our website for the audio and video archives at www.thefemalesolution.com. On behalf of our team of radio hosts, I'd like to thank all of you who participated in today's discussions. And to our global family joining us from all around the world, we say thank you. To our family in China, xie xie. India, Dhanyavad. Japan, arigato. Korea, kamsamnida. Russia, spasiba. Germany, danke. Poland, dziękuję. France, merci. Spain, gracias. Italy, grazie. Egypt, shukran. Ghana, madasi. Nigeria, eshe. South Africa, ngiyabonga. Senegal, jareh. Kenya, asante. Israel, toda. Pakistan, shukriya. Afghanistan, tashakur. Saudi Arabia and Palestine, shukran. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Thank you, and may peace be upon you and the mercy of God and God's blessings. And if you're watching this, that means you're one of the 4.6 billion people from around the world who are using an electronic device to talk to people. In these times, people are using the internet to talk to everybody. Friends, neighbors, family members, co-workers. People are on their cell phones and computers all day long. Now, if you're in business, that is great news. That means you can sell your products and services all day long and never have to leave your home. All you need is a media connection, somebody to connect you to an audience. And that's why I'm talking to you today. We produce programs, and our audience members are people who shop. They buy clothes, food, beauty supplies, cleaning supplies, home repair, transportation services, child care services. Whatever you're selling, they need to buy it. We're your media connection. Just follow this link, and tomorrow you can sit back and relax at home while your business is making you money.